Welcome to the Invero Show. Join the Invero team and our esteemed clients and partners as we demystify the complexities of Microsoft Cloud systems. We hope to help you accelerate your cloud journey and maximize the value of your investment with Microsoft. And now, on with the show.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Invero Show today, where we're going to talk about AI in action. I'm pleased to have my two guests here, Ratan Ashat from Invero as our cloud and AI architect, and we're joined with Marlon Freitas from Microsoft, a data apps and AI specialist. Thanks for joining. Let's jump in. Let's talk AI in action. I'll unpack the agenda here, and then I'm going to pass it over to Marlon to keep it rolling. In the Invero Show, I typically talk about the why is this worth learning about in the first place, and how does it fit into Invero's go-to-market? And then, as I say, Marlon's going to dive into what is AI anyways, and then Ratan's going to go deep into some demos, which I'm really excited about all of that. Marlon's got a great presentation that balances between what's happening in the business climate, matched with what's happening from a tech perspective and how all that can come together to help clients. And then Ratan's got some really exciting demos here where he's going to be interfacing between the code all the way through to the inputs and outputs of the interface and how that could impact your AI solutions. And then we'll wrap up with a little bit of how Invero can help. And if there's some time, let's get into some Q&A. So without further ado, let's kick this off. So why is this worth learning about? You know, it's probably pretty intuitive, and the fact that you joined the call, I think, speaks volumes of your interest in this topic. But it comes down to this. AI is here. 12, 18, 24 months ago, things were kind of just starting to percolate a little bit, and now we see this. I see it every day in my professional and personal life. I'm using AI tools all the time. 6 months ago, that wasn't the case, and that translates into the business climate as well. Whether that's just quick tools you're using like Copilot to help you be more efficient in your role, or it's fit for purpose AI solutions for a specific business use case to help improve efficiency, automation, whatever that might be. So what we're going to unpack today here is just taking that down to a practical level of understanding, okay, where is this at in the marketplace today? Where are we at in terms of technology maturity? What's the trajectory we're on? And then the demos that Ratan's going to show, they're exciting, and they're also just very practical. Like, these are ways where you as a business can get going and make some real progress on a limited budget. Because let's face it, while these technologies are exciting, money's tight. We all have to be very, very mindful of our budgets, and we're looking for ROIs, and we're looking for simple ways to get started here. And if I've learned one thing over the last 6 months in AI, the best thing to do is just get started. The more that you get started, the more that you immerse yourself in it, the more that you'll start to figure out the other opportunities that can stack on top. So let me just quickly tie in. Some of you are very familiar with Invero, some less so. I'll just quickly tie in, how does this conversation fit into Invero's go-to-market? Invero, we wake up every day and think about how do we help clients maximize the value of that investment in Microsoft. And I want to double click on the word value here. Microsoft makes fantastic technology and covers off so many areas between infrastructure and data and modern work and security, but it's really about knitting all these technologies together and doing it in the most efficient way possible. That's what Invero thinks about every day. This slide just gives you a sense of the different solution areas that we participate and practice in. Where I want to draw your eyes to in terms of how does this fit into Invero's go-to-market is we've got a whole solution area that Ratan leads in terms of the architecture, design thinking of it around Gen AI. And then also in the modern work portfolio, that's where Copilot lives, but there's custom Copilot. And so we've delivered solutions using the custom Copilot technology capabilities, along with other ones that are more on the Gen AI side. So it very much fits into both, and it really depends on the use case and the application of how these different technology sets will light up. Without further ado, I'm really pleased. Marlon, thanks again for joining us here today. We're grateful for your time and your contribution. Marlon's going to walk us through a series of slides here that he's titled, What Even is AI? So Marlon, with that, over to you.
That's always a good question. Thanks for having me here today, Sean, and Ratan. Invero is one of my favorite partners. I think the way how aligned you guys are with whatever Microsoft is doing, and how aligned you guys are with how we are selling, going to market, is always making my life so much easier. So I'm happy to be here with you guys today. Just to give some context, I'm a senior specialist in data apps and AI. I was doing some calculations using my own data source, and I probably had 700 presentations led meetings relating to AI in the last 2 years at Microsoft. So I had a lot of conversation. I'm talking with customers, I'm talking with partners, I'm having internal conversation. And a few weeks ago, I was updating my presentation to reflect 2025 calendar year. Well, I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I don't have kids yet, but my wife has a sister, a little sister. And I was talking with my little sister about life, like, hey, you need to read a book. You need to avoid watching too many time on to be on so many time on TikTok and all that good stuff. You need to learn something new. And my wife, little sister, she came up and she was like, "Hey, Marlon, when I'm supposed to learn something new if AI is going to replace it anyway?" I was so surprised with this question because my wife's little sister, she's 12. Uh, but she's familiar with AI, right? I work for Microsoft. Her dad works for Microsoft. Her mom's work with tech. Her sister works with tech. And I was when before I tried to explain, she was like, "What even is AI?" And that was a pretty honest question that made me realize that like, what even is AI is a question that a lot of my customers want to ask, but they are afraid of asking because they think someone else already knows more. So today I'm gonna change the way I'm approaching. I'm not gonna do a futuristic AI explanation, so showing how beautiful AI is, how we can drive a helicopter, how can we build a whole airplane, because you can go on YouTube, you can use Copilot to see it. Today, I want to have a basic foundational AI conversation. What even is AI? So if you can move to the next page, Sean. The first thing we need to understand is that AI is not something new. AI is not something that OpenAI with Sam Altman created 2, 3 years ago. AI has like a modern concept is here for almost 7 years. So the first time we had an AI example was around 1956. What happened in 1956? The challenge is, or the opportunity is, until 1956, we are not able to store data in a digital format. 1956, we are able to store data in a digital format for the first time with IBM. And after that, we moved a lot of machines. So we are trying to move machines from a reactive mode to a proactive mode. So if you keep moving and pressing, you're going to see the whole evolution of AI, and moving to AI to machine learning, going from machine learning to deep learning, and now with this generative AI. But it's really important to understand that AI is not something new. And if you go and if you Bing about it, if you Copilot, don't Google about it, Copilot about it. If you Copilot about and ask like Copilot to create, give me the timeline of the evolution of AI, and you compare against the timeline of the evolution of the computer itself, you're gonna realize that AI is just a natural evolution of our compute capability itself. And that's something that is like sounds basic, but a lot of people don't know, or like a lot of people are not realizing yet. Because if we compare 20, I'm not trying to compare 2021 technology to a 1956 technology, but a lot of times being a customer, we are trying to implement the 2024, 2025 technology to a landscape that is still running 2015 or 2009 landscape, and it's hard, right? So AI requires a transformational change. AI is not something new. And AI is not something OpenAI created. They are doing great stuff. They are doing a lot of disruptive stuff. But AI is definitely not something new. And you need to understand it to make a foundational adoption of AI. Something that I love to also discuss is like, what is the difference? How you can consume AI on Microsoft, and what is the difference between Microsoft and OpenAI? Because we have an amazing relationship with OpenAI. We invested money in OpenAI, but OpenAI is still OpenAI. Microsoft is still Microsoft, and there's some different capabilities between using Microsoft and using OpenAI models. So OpenAI produced the large language models. We use a lot of those large language models through Microsoft, but there is every time we use those large language models through Microsoft, we are using you are following the same privacy and security standards that we have behind the scenes running any Microsoft product. So it's for example, if you use the public version of ChatGPT, a lot of instance, the model is being trained with the prompts, right? So the model is being trained with your questions, the questions you are asking. So if you want to test any AI model, the recommendation always go to Microsoft, because that's where we can see and understand that you are following the same security and privacy standards we have for any Microsoft products. We have a lot of models. I don't want to bring all the models to the table. I'm going to talk about the family of models we have with OpenAI today that are available through Azure. So every time you need to deal with a neuro-language task, like a ChatGPT Copilot experience, that's a GPT family of models. Every time you need to deal with neuro-language to code, like if you ever played around with GitHub Copilot, Fabric Copilot, Power BI Copilot, that's Codex running behind the scenes. So Codex is a large language model responsible to translate neuro-language to code. In latest models like GPT-4, GPT-4o, codecs are already embedded with GPT, so that's why you can ask GPT-4o to generate a code and it's gonna work because it's already part of the model. But it's a different subgroup in the models that we have under OpenAI. And then we have DALL-E. Every time you need to translate neural language to pictures, you ask ChatGPT, or if you ask Copilot to create a picture, that's DALL-E. So those are the family of models we have with OpenAI. Everything is available through Microsoft. And if you go to the next page, Sean, that is two really, I'm really summarizing. There is two ways to leverage AI with Microsoft today. Option one, Microsoft is going to take one of those large language models or another large language model we have internally, and we're going to embed this large language model in a Microsoft application. We're going to call it a Copilot. So if you hear the word Copilot, you can understand like Microsoft is bringing large language models, generative AI capability, embedding this capability in a Microsoft software so you can use. We have a lot of different copilots. I don't have time to go to all copilots today, but each copilot is going to have a different license model, a different license vehicle that you can follow. Some copilots are related to Azure, some copilots are related to modern work, some copilots are related to Dynamics. But if you have a copilot, if you found a copilot that can solve your use case, your business challenge, go with a copilot. Microsoft is embedding large language model for you. The challenge/opportunity is a lot of customers, especially customers going through a deep economic disruption like customers in Canada. For a lot of customers, Copilot is not enough. They need something very customized. A lot of customers, they need to create their own Copilot. If you need to create your own Copilot, if you need a custom approach, every single solution and model Microsoft is using today to create a Microsoft-related Copilot is available for you on Azure. You have large language models today. We have AI Foundry. So AI Foundry is a combination of a lot of AI studio experience we had before in a single place. We have 100 AI models right now available for you to test on AI Foundry. We have cognitive search capability. We have computer vision capability. We have OCR capability. Everything that Microsoft used to create Copilot is available in Azure. So if Copilot's not enough, if you need a custom approach, go to Azure. If you can find a Copilot that's going to solve your business challenge and you don't need anything really customized, go with Copilot, see the license cost, and it's going to work really well. I just like to separate those two options because we have a lot of questions out there about like which Copilot can do what is the difference between Copilot and OpenAI. That's the main difference. Copilot's Microsoft doing the job for you. Azure AI, Azure OpenAI are the underlying solutions if you need to create your own Copilot, your own custom AI. You can have like a low code versus pro code. Copilot Studio is going to be pretty much your Copilot front-end experience, right? If you want to create a custom AI approach, but Azure AI Foundry or anything on Azure is still too complicated for you, you can do a lot of stuff with Copilot Studio. You can deploy, you can connect the dots, you can use Power Apps to do some small automations again. If you need pro code, is AI Foundry, you can do some prototypes, you can do some tests, you can deploy some agents. You can, for example, if you want to test how DeepSeek is gonna respond the question and compare against GPT-4o, you can do that on AI Foundry today. So that's the main difference right now. Everything AI related on Microsoft, your data is your data. With Microsoft, you are not collecting your data to train the models. Microsoft runs on trust. Your data is your data. Your data is not being used to fine-tune anything. We are not collecting your prompts. Your questions not being shared with any other customers. We from Microsoft, we don't have access to the questions you guys are asking, and your data is being protected. So if you want to make an intentional AI adoption, a safe AI adoption, doesn't matter if it's Copilot or custom AI, Microsoft is the right place to be. Especially because also with Microsoft, not going to be hostage of a single AI model if you need a custom approach. Again, you can create an architecture and change the AI model by just changing the API calls. That's 1,800 AI models today on AI Foundry, and everything is really safe and protected today. Another discussion point I have with a lot of customers is AI is cool, but any AI implementation with any customers need to bring a real ROI discussion. Again, I had like 700 discussions, AI related discussions with my customer, and the projects that are moving ahead are the projects that are really solving a real problem. So if you are having a discussion internally with your team members, if you are having a discussion with your C levels, if you are a C level, try to respond itself how much money, what kind of problems, or how much incremental revenue this AI project is trying to bring to the table. If you can respond this answer and somehow you can come up with, I created my own calculation. Usually it's not a official data, but it's my data. Usually if the cost of deployment plus the Azure cost or Copilot cost is not at least, if the ROI is not at least 200% of deployment and Azure costs, it's going to be really hard to move ahead because someone one day is going to ask, why are we moving with that? And 99% of the time, that is ROI in AI calculations. I think we are just failing in bringing real numbers to this day, to those use cases, asking the right questions internally to the stakeholders. So my recommendation always, if you are having an internal AI conversation with Invero, and Invero is doing that really well with Microsoft or even internally with your employees, bring an ROI. See, try to estimate how much improvement, how much money you are saving, or how much revenue this project is trying to bring. It's going to make your life so much easier. So based on all projects we already did, that's official data from IDC. For each dollars any companies investing AI between implementation and licensing or Azure cost, those companies are seeing a $3.5 in return. Usually it's taking 14 months to take a whole investment back. It is impressive. Like I'm especially this week, stock market is not doing well. But historically, we don't have a lot of investment opportunities out there. Comparing any kind of investment, like that is returning 3.5. Well, maybe Dogecoin, but like we don't have a lot of investments right there, returning $3.5 per $1. So if a company is making a real business discussion and bring ROI to the table, bringing the right partner to make the right foundations, you have no reason to fail. There is data out there to prove that AI can return some money. You just going back to the beginning of the conversation. You need to make sure the adoption is being intentional. You need to make sure you're not adopting AI and connecting this AI on the top of AI on the top of the iceberg with a whole infrastructure landscape from 2009 2010 because you're gonna have some challenge down the road. And that's the summary of AI Foundry again. When I updated was 1,700 models. We have 1,800 models right now, and it's growing. If you need to fine tune your models on AI Foundry, you can fine tune your models on AI Foundry. Something that I discovered yesterday, I was able to train an AI model on AI Foundry to sound like me. So I had to read some text, and AI was able to replicate my voice and my accent. Again, if that's a use case you wanna, it's not available for all customers. You need to go through a special authorization with Microsoft. You need to evaluate your use case, but you can do some small tests on AI Foundry. If you need to do a test of translating a video or a series or a product from English to French, English from Spanish, French to English, if you need to do that in real time, go to AI Foundry. If you need to convert those translations to audio, it's going to be available on AI Foundry. If you need to create a benchmark comparing GPT-4o with GPT-4 with DeepSeek, it's going to be there. If you need to understand what kind of computer vision models are available for manufacturing industry, we have filters on AI Foundry. AI Foundry is a consolidation of a lot of experience we had before and new experience in a single place. It's pretty cool. Right here, I just list like the top use case I'm seeing out there. Again, we don't have time to go through all those use cases today, but it's all related to make the data more accessible. But also, you guys know that, but I'm gonna say it again because it's important. AI is gonna be as good as your data is, right? Everything we show on our side, it's beautiful, but it's not magic. For example, if you bring AI, if you ask AI to respond like a question about your P&L, profit and loss, but you give AI a table where loss or profit, or where profit's not being called profit in the table, it's not going to work. It's simple as that. So there is a lot of data preparation, a lot of data governance behind the scenes that a lot of people are not taking consideration, that a partner like Invero can help you if you want to make a real and magic AI discussion. So I just listed right here. Take a screenshot. If you have any questions, you can ask Sean, you can ask me. And if you want to see how those use cases fit your organization, we can have this conversation as well.
Marlon, thanks so much. That was fantastic.
Of course.
Really appreciate the overview and the update and the presentation. And wow, like one other thing that really strikes me is AI, all technology, but AI, I think, is just it's evolving and changing so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you touched on that when you put the slide together, there was 1,700 different components of models in AI Foundry, and here we are talking, and it's already 1,800, right?
1,800.
So often you'll my message to the audience would be, if you looked at something 30 days or 300 days ago and thought, wow, AI isn't quite there in terms of this idea, this business case I've got, look again, because it's constantly evolving. And AI Foundry is so exciting and really democratizing all this advanced complex technology to be very accessible for any business of any size. Amazing. Great stuff, Marlon. We appreciate your time and your contribution. And thanks so much for being part of the Invero show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Marlon. We're going to pivot here now, and we're going to welcome Ratan into the conversation. Ratan's going to unpack a live demo here, and this demo is going to dive into things like how do you chat with your documents, how do you do PII redaction, how do you think about agents and chatbots and all of this. So without further ado, Ratan, welcome. Thanks so much for being part of the Invero show today, and let's jump in. Over to you.
Thank you, Sean. So yeah, I'll dive right into this. So just looking at this diagram right here, what we made is a little customer feedback application, which underneath uses a bunch of AI services. So it uses an Azure OpenAI service, but it also uses a native Azure AI services, which was previously cognitive services. And they do document intelligence, do PII redaction, and then we built a chatbot on top of it, which uses retrieval augmented generation RAG to get the data out of the customer database. So on the diagram, if you see, so this is a typical form-based application. So you'd post a review, just like you post a review on any Google review or any third-party review application. And then once you post a review, you want to do two things. So first thing you want to do is PII redaction. So you want to take out any names, any email addresses, phone numbers, whatnot. And you also want to do some sentiment analysis on top of that to see if that review was good or bad. And then over time, you can see the trend and you can do some calculations on it. All the data that's coming for those reviews goes to a centralized database, which can be hooked to your Power BI for visualizations as well. Currently, we're storing that data in Cosmos DB. So we have two options here. Like we can either use Cosmos DB directly to our app for AI workloads. But the problem with that is every time you have to send a prompt to OpenAI or any AI service in Azure, there's a limit of how many tokens you can send to that. And not even that, like you can probably expand that to quite a large number, but then that's a cost that you're paying. So it would make sense to just get a limited amount of data that you just need for that prompt to work. That's where the Azure search comes in. And what it does is just basically a search engine. It'll hook up to your data source, and you can very rapidly find the data that you want. So you can do keyword search on it. You can do filtrations on it. You can do sorting on this data as well. Um, but we hook that up directly to our application. So, and then once we have that to our app, we'll call the data that's living in Azure AI search, and we'll query that knowledge, and then we'll use various different Azure AI endpoints on it to actually get the response back. So currently we are at this stage. On the left, poster view goes to this application. So this is basically what the front end will look like. And you can have anything here, right? So I'm just gonna put my name here. I'll just do 5-star, and I'll just say uh, best pizza I have had. So if I just submit this review, or actually, oh, that's an email address. So once I submit this review on the back end, I'll show it to you. So on the back end, it's doing a few things. So on the code base, what I'm using is I'm using the text analytics. I'm using Cosmos for getting my data, and just some local environment variables and whatnot to store all of my environment variables. But if I look at the bottom down here, so it was able to send my data. My data got stored in the Cosmos DB as well, and it went through a bunch of different endpoints there. So if we look at all my reviews, this is basically what the admin panel would look like. And right now, it just says best speeds I've had. Because there was no PII in this, it didn't have anything to redact. So when there is PII in this, that's when it is going to redact information. So maybe I'll go back and do one of those as well. Just give me 1 second. And I'll just do John Doe, John at hess.com. And I'll just do like a 2-star review. A poster review here. My name is John Doe. Recently visited your restaurant and was disappointed with the service. Tried calling this number, and I also emailed at this email address to share my feedback. So right here, like we have some PII in here, which should be redacted. So if I submit this review and I look back at my application again, yeah, so that worked. Go down. So it was categorized as negative because obviously the customer was disappointed, and all of my information, the PII is redacted in here. So this redacted piece as well, like if you don't want to say redacted here, you can change this to whatever you want this to be. So it doesn't have to be necessarily redacted. Essentially, what I'm doing here in my code, I'm just saying replace any PII information with the word redacted. But you can have hashtags here, star here, or you can just have blank space, if that's what you want and if that's whatever the end state of this application will take you. So right now we covered these two pieces. So we covered PII redaction, we covered sentiment analysis, it stored the data to the database. From the database, we can do some visualizations, and then we can also do some conversational AI from there too. So if I go back to my application and I do some sentiment visualization, so that's essentially, this is hooked to my database. It's a mini version of Power BI, but essentially it'll kind of show me positive, negatives, any mixed reviews that I had. But you can hook that database to anything that you want. So if I wanted to see the analysis over time, let's just do Feb 1 to March 14th, and I'll just summarize that. So right now what it's doing is it's summarizing all the information based on the prompt that I sent it, and it's going to categorize all the information in positive aspects, negative areas of improvement. So every time I run the summarization over a certain period of time, it'll tell me if I had good reviews, bad reviews, and what are some of the areas I can improve in. Um, so I get a little bit of summary here, but that's good and everything. But if I wanted more custom information, I can also choose to chat with my data. And essentially what that's doing is now we're talking about our last piece here where you have data talking to Azure Search and it connects back with OpenAI and then it lives in your application. So can you tell me the total number of reviews I have had so far? So you should look at the data and ingest the data accordingly and give me the answer back there. So total number of reviews 20, and it basically just summarizes those reviews there for me in a little bit. So on the back end, it just is basically looking at all my endpoints. It's connecting to my endpoints, and then it's coming back with the status goes to 200, which basically means it was a successful request there. And I can ask more stuff like what are some of the areas we can improve on. So essentially, it's going to do the same thing. Look at the data, come back with some feedback, some positives and negatives. So basically, it would tell me, okay, based on all the customer reviews provided, here are some of the areas that can be improved upon. So customer service, food quality. I just threw a bunch of pizza reviews in there, so it's giving me um, reviews accordingly. But essentially, that's what an end-to-end flow where the Azure and all these resources are essentially living in Azure Foundry. This is where you can see you have AI speech. Marlon was talking about this earlier. You can use this to talk to you. You can train your voice on top of this. You have AI vision. You can deploy these models if you have any, I guess, any custom images that you want to evaluate and do some analysis on top of that. You have document intelligence. So you can use all these models here, but these are more pro code based approach. So if you were making custom applications and you were calling these endpoints, this would work great. Our second option is to go low code or no code based approach. Um, and what that essentially means is you don't really have to do a lot of configuration on the backend. Microsoft's already done everything for you. You hook up your connectors and you can basically start ingesting your data. So I'm going to take document intelligence here as an example. And we're going to do some invoice ingestion. So we're going to do document intelligence on some invoices there. So what you see is on the left, there's a sample invoice which has a bunch of data. You have your customer address, you have your vendor address, you have invoice ID, your invoice date, customer name, and obviously all the billing information there too. So AI is gonna look at the data and it can look at both computer generated documents, but also OCR handwritten documents as well. It's going to extract the information, send it to a JSON object, and from there you can just choose to do whatever you want to do. You can either have a third-party integration or another custom integration on top of this, which does something for you, or you can just write it to a database and then choose to do whatever you want to do with that later on. So I'm going to share my screen back here once again. So I've got my power flow here now. So what this essentially does is I'm gonna get an email. And you can have any trigger that you want here. This is going to ingest an invoice from some sort of email. It's going to process that email, extract the information from those invoices, and essentially create a new item in my SharePoint list. So this is my SharePoint list right now. I'll refresh this. There's only one record in here, ABC Business, just a sample data with all the invoice information in there. So I'm going to do a manual test on this and saving and testing right now. So it's looking to get an email. So I think it's just trying to save that here for a sec. Okay. So now it's in the test mode. So what we are going to do is I have some invoices here, some sample invoices. So this is like a sample invoice I got on the internet. It's got a bunch of data in there, different format. I got another German invoice. Now this is different language as well. So this would be interesting to see how AI ingests this information and also translates it at the same time. And then you also have another invoice here. Let's try the German one. It might be the most interesting one there. So what I'm going to do is I'll send an email to myself because that's what my trigger is right now. So I'm just gonna drag this German invoice. The other thing it's looking to see in that mailbox is anything with a subject line of invoice. And you can have that custom as well if you want that to be. So I just sent an email right now with that German invoice. The flow should run very soon. So right now we should be looking to see when the connector establishes that there's something that's coming in. Just for reference, this is essentially what I sent to my mailbox. I still haven't received it on my side. Okay, there we go. Just heard that I received it. So the webhook that basically listens to this connector should now be triggered. Normally you'd have like a few seconds to about a minute of delay between every new data that's getting processed. However, you can have some manual timers set to it to reduce that. So right now it's applying to each. So there's only one document. So it's going to extract information from that particular document, and then it's going to create an item. So it's done that. So all the information has been extracted. So we can look at the output here too. So this is all the information that you get out basically from the particular document, and you can choose to do whatever you want to do. And there's a lot of information in here for a single invoice. So you can really customize this if you want to. But if we look at our SharePoint list now, we should have another record here. So this matches with all the data that I had in my invoice. I have the customer address, I have a vendor address, I have a sales tax. There was no due date on it, so that wasn't captured. But these are the only fields that I'm trying to capture. But I can choose to capture more data if I want to. But yeah, that essentially concludes the demos there, Sean. So I'll pass it back to you.
You saw the magic and the value there, real time, and Ratan, well done. No pressure, hey, like live demo, toggling back and forth between, hey, let's talk about PII redaction, let's show it real time. How's that going to work? Let's talk about ultimately chatting with your documents in different languages, and the use cases for these things is kind of endless in a way. Earlier, Marlon, he had a slide on there of kind of the 16 most common use cases. For sure, we see things like chatting with your documents and different types of interfaces. I think this leads us to the next part of our discussion here, which is wrapping this up and just thinking a little bit of how can Invero help you make some progress here. What I want to touch on is this notion of the business use case, right? It really starts there, thinking about what is it that AI can do for you. Thematically, I find I'm thinking about it in two ways. One would be what are what can AI do for our business that we can't do today? What could it help us maybe break into new markets or new capabilities or just kind of build new muscle? The other would be to think about, which is the other one is probably the better place to start, which would be what are the things that we do today, and they're a bit mundane. The tasks itself are a little bit mundane, but they require a fair amount of human effort, and it's also mundane. It's a little repeatable. So what can AI do to help free up that capacity for those people to do maybe more complex tasks, maybe things that are adding a bit more value to the business? So with that, one of the things that Invero has done is we put together a really comprehensive business use case guide. We'll share that with everybody on our audience. It's also, you can just find it on our website, download it, and off to the races. It really helps you unpack that in terms of a framework and a guide to discuss with different business stakeholders around what are the activities and functions happening in that particular line of business area, and teasing out the conversation of how AI could help or make an impact there. Second would be, this often leads to an envisioning session. Versions of this would be going through that first phase of thinking about the business use cases, and then maybe we come back and we say, okay, we got 3 or 4 business use cases. Now let's have a conversation with Ratan, and let's think about how practical are these in terms of the technology and the accessibility. Is this something that we could do together very simply? Or is this a very complex, or is this a futures type thing? We can demystify that and figure that out very quickly and very efficiently. And then that would lead to, okay, we pick something, we see it there, now let's design it and let's get it into a proof of value or an MVP state, and then ultimately figure out how do we deploy that into a production environment. The opportunities are endless here. It starts with a conversation, and it starts with just doing something. I'll come back to one of the comments I made in the beginning, which is just start to do something and you'll build on it. Start small and just keep going and building. Okay, I'm gonna take a deep breath. Thank you to our audience for participating in this episode of the Invero Show. Thank you, Ratan. Thank you, Marlon, for your participation.